Hello, good people. You know, I love me an affordable enclosure. I'm sure you do too. We've gotten so many good ones in the last year and a half. But my issue, however, are all these affordable enclosures have kind of merged into one. There's no particular competing element on one versus the other. They all have pretty much the same hardware spec, size, cooling potential. So how do you differentiate yourselves within a really crowded space? And it's exactly what Phanteks is trying to achieve with this new enclosure. Shall we check it out? So this, my friends, is the new P350X from Phanteks. This could be the best budget tower ever created. Let's check it out. I appreciate the little detail of putting the tempered glass sticker on the plastic that you peel and not on the glass itself. And so I positioned the P350X in the middle between the P300, also a Phanteks enclosure at $59, incredible value, and then the Fractal Design Meshify C, which is a fantastic package all around, but it costs $89, $20 more than the new P350X, which costs 69 bucks. Now, Phanteks is known to cut appropriate corners in order to meet really competitive price points. So like the P300, for example, they have tempered glass that does not span the entire side. Instead, the power supply shroud is part of the frame, which is how they're able to achieve this really solid structure at $59. That still looks awesome. And so the P350X is slightly bigger, but that follows on the same footsteps of having the same approach to the tempered glass side panel and the power supply shroud being actually part of the structural frame. So at $69, how good is the P350X in comparison to the P300 and the Meshify C, which I would recommend to anybody looking to build a tower right now. But what if you want to save 20 bucks? All right, enough with the preface. Let's review the P350X right after this. It's always a pleasure upgrading or adding new hardware to your system, especially when it comes to storage, like this new OCZ TR200 drive from Toshiba. It's a great value SSD, offers a nice boost in performance for boot times, file transfers, and just general system and work operation with cutting-edge 3D flash memory and ultra-reliable controller with built-in power management. Consider the upgrade today with TR200. It's available in different capacities. Check it out below. Alright, so the P350X is out because Phanteks needed a tempered glass case for this price category, despite it almost competing with the P400 and being quite similar to the P300, so the naming scheme of 350X is actually pretty clear. I do like that they've addressed the front panel airflow concerns. Now the ventilation spans both sides of the panel instead of the top and bottom like on the P300, with a fine dust filter built in and enough clearance from the front fan mount to avoid choking the fans. Now in my testing with the panel on-off, the CPU temperature delta was only 3 degrees Celsius, so they've done a pretty good job here for airflow. I still prefer the full mesh approach with cases, and hopefully we'll see something similar from Phanteks at some point. Now the panel is plastic, so they can incorporate the LED strips, but it looks like sandblasted aluminum with this kind of open section at the top, so it can be used to carry the enclosure. And interestingly, to avoid additional wiring for the LEDs when you remove the front panel, there's a 3-contact RGB connector that aligns with the case, so just make sure to properly orientate the panel as it does look symmetrical. And so this RGB stuff on the $69 case is actually well done. We have 2 thin strips at the front and 1 below the tempered glass. They are ambient, not too in your face, and are addressable RGB, so that means we get this beautiful gradient and also pure whites with a few built-in effects. I love this integration because you can add more Phanteks illumination accessories like the Lux fan frames or the LED strips, and there's also a 3-pin addressable motherboard connector for the full control. Otherwise, the mode and color buttons are right beside the USB 3 and audio jacks up top, so here you only get a power button without a reset switch. Behind the panel, we have dual 120/140 mounts with up to 280mm radiators supported, and we only have a single 120 fan included as the rear 120 slot is empty, and below is our drive cage with 2 drive caddies that are removable only from the front. Now, it's not the most convenient place for routing the drives, and actually limits your power supply clearance. So the only advantage to this layout is the frame is overall thinner and helps with general cable management, as this front section is expanded and lets you route cables from the bottom so they don't cross the area behind the motherboard tray. Because as you can see, there's very little room from the SSD till the side panel, so the orientation of that bottom drive cage is appropriate here. The tempered glass mount is basic with thumb screws, and the panel sits on 4 pegs and the bottom lip for the power supply shroud, and I'm totally okay with it not spanning the full bottom side. It gives the case a little bit of character, and it's also one of the few cases to come with dual color PCI brackets for, you know, the white interior. And also good to mention, the backside panel has captive thumb screws. All ATX standoffs are pre-installed, and the only visible branding is this discrete text on the side. Nice. And so the only reason why you'd want a P350X over, let's say, the P300 is the slightly longer frame, as otherwise the dimensions and cooling potential is basically identical. So the longer frame means the top section can now support dual 120, 140 fans that are offset as much as possible to keep the symmetrical dust filter, but the case is not very tall, so the top is not exactly radiator friendly, which means if you are installing a radiator, it is really meant to go at the front. Now it's actually the same height as the Mesh 5C or the Corsair 275R with about the same length dimensions, but here we get proper support for eATX motherboards. And because we have the bottom drive cage, the usual cutout at the front for 360 rad is not here. I think that's okay for a $69 case because we have plenty of room for a 240 or a 280 rad, which is most likely what you'll be doing anyway with this enclosure. Otherwise, if you are air cooling only, the P300 may be a more suitable option. For GPU clearance, we have 13.5 inches until the fans with the radiator in my configuration at good clearance for top exhaust fans only, but there are a few annoyances, like the cutouts beside the motherboard are quite narrow, so thicker cables get stuck for me, while the middle cutout above the motherboard is not high enough and is almost fully covered by the motherboard, so I could not even fit a 4-pin connector through it. And lastly, while I appreciate the 2 Velcro straps, there are no other cable tie points anywhere to help with cable management. Now it's not really an issue because you can see the cables are flat by default in this configuration, plus there's additional space near the power supply. It's just that accessing the cables for the interior drives will be difficult. But in the end, the P350X is a super appealing mid-tower based on looks and ease of use, as long as you don't have to swap out those hard drives, with a non-compromised front panel design that only gave me a 3-degree hotter temperature with the panel installed. Now Phanteks have always done case lighting right, and the inclusion of a digital RGB on this one means it's future-proof, and I feel the price is on point to challenge the S340 from NZXT that you can see is in the top most popular cases at $69, and so we're gonna have to give the P350X a deserved damn good value award. Now the thing is, it's not perfect, but I feel like the P350X may be one of the most complete $69 cases that we've seen in a while. And it's funny because they're almost competing with each other. Like the P400, when that launched, was $69, but the tempered glass edition was $10 more. So if you want slightly roomy enclosure, then you go up to the P400. So Phanteks have done a really good product separation so that they're not completely clashing with each other and kind of suit that price category pretty well. So let me know what you think of the P350X in the comments below. I'm Dimitri. Thanks so much for watching. Check out this other relevant content, and we'll see you in the next video. 416 represent.